My oh my, Justin Baldoni's lawyers have now leaked the official footage of her alleged harassment, and I now need this to go to trial. So the story goes, essentially, he says she didn't even read the book before signing on to the project. Then she read the book and kind of became consumed with it and wanted to basically introduce her own lines and wanted to become a part of the project and rework the script. So she submitted to him her ideas for how to rework the script, and apparently he gave her feedback, essentially saying, like, you know, I really love how passionate you are about this project. Maybe we'll take some of these ideas, but like, obviously we're not going to take all these ideas because it's our project.
In the beginning, Blake Lively had it all. To the world, she was the quintessential Hollywood starlet, poised, flawless, and seemingly perfect in every way. Her public image had been meticulously constructed, from her role as a beloved TV actress to her fairy tale marriage with actor Ryan Reynolds. She played the part of America's sweetheart, always appearing as the dedicated wife, the doting mother, and the elegant, stylish celebrity. Her fans adored her. Hollywood was enchanted by her, and the media lapped up the idea of a perfect life. Blake had become the standard for what many saw as the ideal celebrity, polished and untouchable. However, as time went on, cracks began to show. It all started to unravel when rumors and whispers began to swirl around Blake's behavior behind the scenes. For someone so carefully protected by her PR team, it seemed like a monumental task to keep the cracks hidden from public view. But as new allegations and stories surfaced, the once pristine image began to lose its shine. Behind the glossy photos and red carpet appearances, Blake was embroiled in scandals that started to erode her public perception. As it turns out, what looked like a fairy tale was just that, a narrative created to maintain control of her image, even at the cost of others. With each new revelation, Blake's carefully crafted persona began to break down, leaving the public to wonder what was really going on beneath the surface. Enter Candace Owens, a tenacious figure on the hunt for the truth. Owens, known for her sharp investigative style, began to dig deeper into the story surrounding Blake Lively. What she unearthed was nothing short of a media bombshell. Proof that Blake, alongside her husband Ryan Reynolds, had been involved in a deliberate and orchestrated campaign to destroy the reputation of actor Justin Baldoni.
Listen, I know this is going to sound crazy, but everything that I'm reading here points to the fact that Blake Lively manipulated her audiences and lied to her audiences. And like, I'm kind of shocked as someone who fully believed her, and he's just basically as psychotic as me.
Far from being a passive participant in the drama, Blake had allegedly taken an active role in plotting against Baldoni, using her significant influence to push a narrative that would tarnish his public image. It wasn't just hearsay or conjecture. Candace Owens had obtained undeniable evidence that Blake and Ryan were not simply reacting to an insult, but were instead actively trying to manipulate public perception by using Baldoni as a scapegoat. This plot, according to Owens, had been set into motion long before the public became aware of it. While the media had initially bought into the narrative that Blake was a victim, Owens presented a very different picture, one where Blake and Ryan were the masterminds behind a deliberate scheme. The truth, it seemed, was far murkier than anyone had realized, and Candace Owens was determined to expose it. The situation took a more sinister turn when it was revealed that Ryan Reynolds himself had played a significant role in the campaign against Justin Baldoni. According to reports, Reynolds had approached a senior executive at WME, William Morris Endeavor, one of Hollywood's top talent agencies, to express his deep dislike for Baldoni. He even suggested that the agent should work to sideline Baldoni in favor of Reynolds and his wife Blake. This wasn't a simple disagreement. It was a calculated attempt to influence a major industry player and change the trajectory of Baldoni's career.
And money is on Blake Lively being wrong. All right, you guys, it is Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni Day. Finally, I've been teasing that all week, and let me just say to all of the women out there that are watching, no matter what you do in life, you never, ever, ever go full Amber Heard.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
They are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
Thank you.
Are
You like the movie? Are you a Woody Allen fan?
I love most of his movies, and this one was so, like, visually amazing.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
The revelation that Ryan Reynolds had taken this step highlighted the influence he and Blake held in Hollywood, using their power to try and control the fate of another actor. This behind-the-scenes maneuvering painted a far darker picture than anyone had imagined. Rather than being a passive bystander, Ryan Reynolds was actively engaging in a campaign to eliminate Baldoni from Hollywood circles. And Blake, seemingly in the know and possibly even complicit, wasn't far behind in pulling strings to ensure the success of their scheme. With their combined influence, they were manipulating the system to their advantage, and the truth was starting to come to light. As these revelations began to emerge, Blake Lively's once dominant PR team found itself in a desperate struggle to salvage the situation. Blake had always been a media darling, expertly managing her public image, but this time, the scandal was too big to sweep under the rug. The carefully cultivated image of the perfect Hollywood family was beginning to crack, and Blake's team was in full crisis mode, scrambling to shift the narrative away from the damaging new facts that were coming to light. They tried to control the situation by changing the story, recasting Blake as the victim of a cruel and calculated attack. However, the mounting evidence painted a much different picture, and the team's efforts seemed increasingly desperate. Rather than reshaping the narrative, it became clear that Blake's actions had been far more strategic than anyone had realized. She had been plotting behind the scenes, and now, the truth was too glaring to ignore.
The times where people ignore the red flags and say, let's just keep pushing, those are the times where you fail. The majority of things that we're buying are created by men. You always learn more from your failures than you do your successes. I love creating, and I think that as women, you're not often given authorship, yet women represent 85% of people making purchases in homes across all categories.
Blake and her PR team tried to manage the fallout, but with each new revelation, their attempts to protect her image only made things worse. The more they tried to cover up the truth, the more their own narrative seemed to unravel, further escalating the crisis. The legal storm surrounding Blake intensified as she found herself facing multiple lawsuits, including one from Jed Wallace, a crisis management expert and PR guru. Wallace, who had been named in Blake's legal filings, accused her of defamation, claiming that she had wrongly implicated him in a social media scheme intended to tarnish her image. Wallace, who led a powerful PR firm, demanded $7 million in damages, arguing that Blake had falsely accused him of orchestrating a digital campaign to damage her reputation. This lawsuit added a new layer of complexity to Blake's already tumultuous legal situation. Not only was she embroiled in a battle with Justin Baldoni, but now her actions had allegedly damaged the reputation of a well-established professional in the PR industry. The stakes were getting higher, and Blake's reputation was taking another hit. As the lawsuits piled up, it became clear that the once untouchable actress was now facing a series of serious legal challenges, with the potential for severe financial and reputational consequences. In the midst of this growing controversy, Blake Lively turned to a familiar tactic: deflection. When the accusations against her started to gain traction, Blake and her team attempted to shift the blame onto Justin Baldoni. They accused him of launching a complex PR scheme designed to ruin her image, a move that seemed like an effort to take the heat off herself. However, as Candace Owens pointed out, this was far from the truth. Blake's accusations against Baldoni were not only baseless, but also dangerously exaggerated. Instead of taking responsibility for her own actions, she chose to fabricate a story in which she was the innocent victim, caught up in a complex and unfair media attack. The problem, however, was that the evidence didn't support Blake's narrative. Baldoni, it turned out, wasn't the mastermind behind the plot. Blake and Ryan were. By trying to shift the blame, Blake only drew more attention to the fact that her own behavior was under scrutiny, and the public was beginning to question the legitimacy of her claims. The video paints a chilling picture of how Blake and Ryan Reynolds allegedly worked together to systematically destroy Justin Baldoni's career. Their plan, it seems, was to isolate Baldoni from Hollywood's inner circles, to make him a pariah in the industry. Through manipulation, control, and calculated strategy, they attempted to erase him from the very world that had once embraced him. Blake, in particular, used her influence to plant seeds of doubt and distrust about Baldoni, casting him as a threat to her own image. Candace Owens argues that this wasn't a spontaneous act of revenge, but a premeditated and well-executed scheme. The goal was simple: discredit Baldoni and remove him from the equation entirely. And for a time, it looked as though they might succeed, until the truth began to surface. As Owens revealed, Blake and Ryan's attempt to eliminate Baldoni wasn't just about competition or petty grievances. It was part of a larger pattern of behavior that had been going on behind the scenes for years. One of the most shocking twists in the saga was the reported distancing of Taylor Swift from Blake Lively. The two had once been close friends, but as the scandal unfolded, it became clear that Taylor was no longer willing to shield Blake from the fallout. Taylor, who had long been a protective figure in Blake's life, was now distancing herself from the situation, possibly in an effort to protect her own public image. Sources claim that Taylor had been caught off guard by the depth of the scandal and the allegations surrounding Blake's behavior. As a result, she was now focused on her own reputation.
Lively can forget about packing her bags for New Orleans this weekend. Well, I guess
she can go.
She can still go to the Super Bowl.
She's just not going to get the best suite, that's for sure.
She will not be in Taylor Swift's suite because their friendship is in a, I don't even know if it's right to call it a friendship anymore.
You could call it kaput.
Yeah.
At least from one side.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is that Blake is at least making it seem like they're good. And as we broke the story yesterday,
Cry and make up.
yes, that was Blake's response.
Carefully navigating her public image to avoid being associated with Blake's increasingly tarnished one. Taylor's decision to distance herself from Blake only added fuel to the fire, as it became apparent that the once solid friendship was now under immense strain. The question remained, would Taylor choose to sever ties with Blake for good, or would she attempt to ride out the storm and maintain a public facade of unity? As if the situation weren't dire enough, Blake and Ryan Reynolds were now facing a staggering $400 million lawsuit filed by Justin Baldoni. Not only were they fighting legal battles on multiple fronts, but now their very livelihoods were at risk. This new lawsuit, which also named Taylor Swift as a defendant, was a game changer. It brought into question not just their actions, but the extent to which Taylor had been involved in the behind-the-scenes maneuvering.
I said that having read through Blake Lively's complaint, that it was evident to me that she was likely under the influence when she filed her complaint. Not under the influence of drugs, not under the influence of alcohol, but of the influence of proximity to Taylor Swift. Maybe one Eras tour too many had been attended by her and Ryan, and they were just feeling like they were Taylor Swift. I just recognized her brand of feminism.
This lawsuit represented a serious turning point. As the evidence mounted, it became clear that Blake and Ryan had not just acted recklessly, they had put themselves at the center of a legal and public relations nightmare. With Taylor now pulled into the legal fray, Blake was facing the very real possibility of significant financial and legal repercussions. The stakes had never been higher, and it was unclear how they would navigate the growing storm. In the end, Blake Lively's carefully curated image of the perfect Hollywood star was collapsing. The public was no longer enamored with the idea of her and Ryan Reynolds as a picture-perfect couple. Instead, they were now seen as manipulative figures who had used their power to destroy others. The more the public learned about Blake's actions, the more they realized that she had been playing a dangerous game for years. Her attempts to control the narrative through PR tactics were now failing miserably, and the public was seeing through the facade.